All right, Ken Orange Theory Trader back with you with another video, just talking about the comparison or comparing and contrasting sports betting versus day trading. I'm going to be honest, I am biased here, but let's get into it. So, number one, the worst and best case scenario. What does this mean? Let's start with sports betting. If you're a sports bettor, right, and let's say you bet $100 on a game, that's your worst case scenario, that you'll lose the $100. Once you're in that bet, you can't really change your mind, right? Now, what's your best case scenario? Let's say you just wager 100, and let's say the payout is, I'm just making this up here, say 200 or 300. Let's say $200. All right, so just you can double your money. All right, so there you go. Now, that's your absolute best case scenario. It's just a straight bet, more or less. And I'm not going to get into parlays and all that type of stuff. I don't sports bet, but I'm just drawing the pairs, the straight bet example here. But now, let's say, for example, I trade this forex market or currency market. But what is my worst case scenario as a trader? See, here's the main difference I want you to realize. See, if you're betting on sports betting, once you're locked into that bet, you're out $100. If you lose, you can't do that. Let's say I take a trade and I risk $100, same as the sports gambler, right? But all of a sudden the trade goes against me, say $20. I'm down $20. I can get out of that trade, right? I can get out. That could be theoretically my worst case scenario. I can limit my downside because I can exit that trade at any time, right? My best case scenario could be this. Let's say I take the trade, I risk $100. It goes into my favor. Let's say 10, $15. I can add another position and then add another position and thereby multiply my gains. Whereas I started out risking $100 to, let's say, make that same $200. But then if I add to my positions, I can end up possibly making 300, 400, or $500 for that same exact trade. And that could be my best case scenario. See, you can make more money if you know what you're doing, learning to day trade, than you would by betting on sports. Okay? Worst and best case scenario. See, a trader's best case is always going to outweigh a gambler's best case any day of the week, period, if they're smart and know what they're doing. Okay? Now, as well, there is a question between luck and skill. So, what do I mean by that? When we're talking about trading Forex, the deal is that by having repeatable skills, risk management, good execution, market structure, statistics, you got back testing data, etc., you are developing a skill that can pay you over time. If you're betting on sports, even with all the analysis in the world and all the AI algorithms and the this guy giving signals and this player is doing this and that, the outcome is going to depend on something you can't control. Players get injured, referees might be in on the action, maybe the call comes in from the front office or whoever's running the show to pull a certain player. You just don't know. There's too many variables that can take place if we're talking about betting on a game, right? I prefer to develop a skill versus depending on luck if I'm going to try to turn $1 into two. Now, as well, we have to think about scale. So, what do I mean when I say think about scale? Scale is just the ability to grow something bigger over time, is what I'm talking about. So when we talk about thinking scale, starting small and then growing it. When you are, let's say, betting on sports, did you know that theoretically the broker or at least the sports book can limit your action? They can say, hey, you're getting a little too good at this. I don't know if you have inside information or what, but at the end of the day, I'm going to say, as the house, quote unquote, I'm going to limit you to make sure you don't make a lot of money to basically put us out of business. Versus in the Forex space, at least with a broker, generally speaking, there are no brokers that are going to say, you're too good at trading. We don't want your business anymore. Okay, because the broker is going to get paid from their fees and their commissions, sometimes spreads, just whatever. It could be any number of things. But see, the broker is going to get theirs regardless. But the house can limit you and be able to prohibit your ability to really scale up your endeavor in order to make sure that you can make a decent living doing either one or the other. See, so it's easier to scale and grow, let's say, a $100 bankroll into a $500 bankroll trading than it is to grow a $100 bankroll to a $500, or let's say $1,000, $10,000, $20,000 using a sports book. Because again, if you're too good, I promise you that sports book is going to say, we don't want your action. No different than a regular casino. If you're found guilty of counting cards or whatever in blackjack, they can put you out. So while it technically may not be illegal, they're going to say, hey, look, we don't want you. Traders, we don't deal with that. Okay, we just don't. Now, The best ability is availability. So what do I mean by that? See, the thing is, when you're trading, or rather when you're betting on sports, you can only trade or at least get a piece of the action when there's an actual game going on. Maybe you just like to bet on basketball games, but basketball season only goes for so long. Football season, baseball season, etc. You're locked into a window, right? But if the opportunity isn't available to you, then there's really nothing you could do. Traders, we're 24/7, 365. Okay, in the crypto space at least. In forex, it's not necessarily 24/7, but you get my point. The market is always open at least Sunday through Friday. We don't have to wait on games. We don't have to depend on players. The market is always available. There's always an opportunity there, right? So we can get access to more action, and the market is more readily available to us than it would be for your average sports bettor, right? So, as well, it's a question of variables, and I did touch on this a little bit, but just to reiterate, you see, when you're a trader, for the most part, you're in control. Now, are there certain swings in price, and can things happen that are beyond your control? Yes, they can, but it's rare. In terms of sports betting, players get hurt, players get injured, players get sick. You might have weather delays. It could be any number of things that can go on that's going to impact your bottom line. It's things that you can't even account for. And if something does happen into that and you're locked into the bet, there's nothing you could do. But again, in the trading world, you can always get out of any position that makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel uncomfortable before it even hits your stop loss. So it's just the better alternative to me. So these are some of the self-talk examples for each. This is how these people talk, right? So a trader will tell themselves that I can control my risk before I even enter the trade. But the gambler's just hoping that something goes my way. And in the investing space, there's a common phrase. It says hope is not a strategy. Okay? Betting on, LeBron to hit an over is not a strategy. You're just hoping that he does what he normally does. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. You don't know. Okay? The trader says one trade means nothing. My edge plays out over time. But the gambler says this one bet has to hit. It's unfortunate that a lot of gamblers they're putting up their rent money hoping that they can still pay the rent and possibly have a little extra on the side. Or I need this bet to hit so I can pay my car note. Or I need this bet so I can pay off this debt. Okay? I don't like seeing this. I really don't. But there's a better way. I promise you that. The trader says the losses are planned and acceptable. The trader has his way and system set up so that it's no different than owning a store. And if you're a store owner, you know that you may buy a lot of inventory, but you don't need all of your inventory to sell in order to make a profit. All you need is enough of it to sell at a good enough margin, and you'll be okay. But to a gambler, losses feel personal. You need a lot of your bets to hit, or you're just losing and taking loss after loss after loss. Then you get a win, but then you get another loss and another loss and another loss, right? And those losses can feel personal to you. But trading, we already got that locked down. We already know that losses we set up our losses so that they're small and inconsequential. Gamblers don't get that luxury. They really don't. Now, the trader knows that they're being paid for discipline and execution. Sports bettor, they're just getting paid to be right. They have to be right. Did you know that in the trading space, you can have a win rate as low as 30% and still make a decent money or decent income? Sports bettors, I promise, they don't have that luxury. They really don't. Right? Why is that though? Because traders have the ability to maximize and add to their winners. So imagine, to draw this parallel, if you like to bet on sports, imagine this. Let's say you got an over, you're betting an over on something, and it looks like it's really going to hit. Imagine putting more money into the bet as it's going on because you know it's a sure thing. See, you can't do that. Traders can. If we have a good trade going and it's going in our favor, and we get to add more size to the trade, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, that's what I would compare it to. Okay. But again, that's part of discipline and execution, right? Because while traders get paid for being right, traders can make just above and beyond what a sports bettor can, because we can always amend the wager or the money that we have in the trading position. Sports bettors, they just have to sit on the sidelines with their fingers crossed. Okay. So in conclusion, there is no shame for wanting to turn a dollar into two, a dollar into three, or a dollar into five. But I would encourage people to pick a venture where you have some measure of control. You would be better off, and I know that says but I'm going to fix it to off. There we go. You'd be better off buying stock in a gaming company or a sports betting company than you would betting on games. I mean, that's the long and short of it. Why not? If you got to be involved in that space, just buy a stock. Some of them are publicly traded. Do that at least. But there's a very disturbing trend, at least among young men in general, where they're getting into sports betting and gambling. It's everywhere. And that, I promise you, that house is going to win. I just want to see people develop a skill with enough discipline in order to extract money from a market that can do that for people who are willing to put the time and work in, instead of just betting on someone else's ability to score X amount of points, or betting on the team to score X amount of points or beats another team. Okay. Because it's very unfortunate that some people, they see this as maybe a way out of their situation. The odds of that happening are very, you might as well play the lottery. Now someone may say as well too, well, don't most traders lose money? Yeah, but that's easily fixable with discipline and time. Most gamblers, no, that's just not the case. There's no amount of time you can put in to say, okay, I know what each team is going to do, or I know the turnout on every single game. It just doesn't happen, folks. Now, of course, I know someone may see this and say, well, I know such and such is doing good betting on sports, and this, those are the outliers and the anomalies. Okay. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say I can find more traders that are successful than I can more people who are successful betting on sports habitually. Like, I promise, I can find more traders paying their bills with trading than I can people betting on sports and paying their bills with that. I promise you. I promise you. All right. So I hope that helps. Just my opinion. Feel free to disagree. But again, I don't like seeing the trend where a lot of young men are headed with some of this, sports betting and gambling. There is a better way to turn a dollar into two, and to me, it's trading. So I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.